One of the real advantages of electric cooperatives membership is having a voice in our state's energy future.
Not a week goes by without important energy issues making headlines. These are issues that need to be discussed. And you should know that as policies are being developed, the cooperatives are looking out for our members, advocating what's best for you.
We are your friends and neighbors.
We are your local electric company.
The electric cooperatives.
We are Arkansas.
And welcome back to Capitol View. I'm David Goins.
And I'm Roby Brock.
We are joined now by 3rd Congressional Congressman Steve Womack. Congressman Womack, thanks so very much for joining us on Capitol View this morning.
My honor. Thanks for having me.
You're our final congressional person to finally get on this show. We've completed the whole six games. That's right, exactly. Right. Let's talk about what you guys will be facing when you come back from your recess here that you guys have been on for the better part of a month here. Potential government shutdown, a vote for a continuing resolution to keep the federal government funded. What do you see happening in the short term? What do you see happening in the long term on this issue?
Oh my goodness, we have 8 legislative days. We go back on September the 9th, and then we have 4 days that week, 4 days the following week before we break before the October 1st time frame for Jewish holidays. We have continuing resolution funding government beyond the 1st of October. So in those 8 days, we have to solve for that problem. We do have a movement going on around the country trying to claim to, wanting to defund Obamacare and tie that to the continuing resolution.
Is that plausible?
In a word, no, but is it still being promoted? Yes. We could come back to that. Then we have already, we know that by mid-October we're going to have to deal with a debt ceiling increase, and paying the bills of the government, that sort of thing. And then we have this thing called sequester that we're still dealing with, so there's some leverage points. And then we have a lot of other issues that are on the minds of people: immigration reform, tax reform, regulatory reform,
Farm bill.
So we have plenty on our plate, but clearly doing something that provides for funding of the government from the 1st of October for some time frame, whether it's a month, 2 months, 2 weeks, whatever the case is, we have to do that in these 8 days. So that's going to be a contentious debate that happens when we return.
That seems almost insurmountable to me, other than that you're going to do what has proverbially been called kicking the can down the road. I'm going to use a different metaphor. You're going to hit the snooze on the alarm clock because I'm tired of y'all kicking the can down the road. But is that realistically what's going to happen? You're just going to buy yourself some more time?
We're going to buy a little more time for the purpose of finishing our appropriations work. Look, Congress hasn't worked on a realistic budget and current appropriations for a long, long time. I think it's been since '98 that we ever finished our appropriations work on time. And as an appropriator, that's pretty near and dear to me. So we have to be able to finish our work and then come up with some kind of an omnibus package where we package those appropriations bills for whatever time is left in the fiscal year, so that we're not constantly taking this government to the brink, to the cliff, as it were, like it was at the end of the year. And people are frustrated with that. They want some certainty. They want Congress to function. They want Congress to work, which means that we have 2 deeply divided sides that need to be able to come to some agreement on something that moves America forward. That's our challenge, and it is a very daunting task.
I mean, do you think, we mentioned that you would kind of touch briefly on this idea of people kind of tying the funding of the healthcare law to continuing the government. I mean, do you think that's something we're going to see here?
Well, I think it will continue to be promoted. The question is, by the time when we get back on September the 9th, has the tour around the country by the Heritage Action people, has it been effective in causing a number of people to say, I'm going to draw the line in the sand on Obamacare right here, and if they are not willing to defund Obamacare, then we'll shut the government down. See, I just don't think it's a wise political strategy.
You're talking about the Heritage Foundation?
The Heritage Foundation, sure. Yes. I just don't think it's a wise political strategy. I think the potential political outcomes could be really, really hard on our party, and that's just not what I'm willing to risk right now. I agree in principle, and I agree with the policy, and I've signed on to the Tom Graves letter that defunds Obamacare, but I'm not real sure that I want to put that as a rider on the spending bill for the 1st of October. Shut the government down, shoot the hostage. We can all, kind of predict what the outcomes are going to be, but when you control one part of government, when I say when the GOP controls one side of government, and that's the House majority, and we lost votes in the 2012 election, and I know this is going to be a focus of the other side against us. I just think we've got to be careful what we're willing to risk in trying to keep that gavel.
This has been written a lot, and I kind of want to get your perspective because you're in House leadership. You're one of the whips for.
Well, I'm a deputy whip. I don't know that I would say I'm in House leadership.
Oh, okay. He's distancing himself.
Well,
from
no,
that
I'm not distancing myself. I'm just telling you the truth. I'm a deputy whip.
Okay.
So I sit in the deputy whip meetings where we talk about the strategy that has been handed us by the House leadership.
Okay. So is the House GOP, is it untamable? That's one of the things that has been written, that it is this beast.
That's a Boehner question.
Well, it's a question for you. You've got the right wing of the GOP, you've got a more moderate, middle of the road wing of the party. Is it tenable?
Yeah, I think so. But here's what our challenge is, Roby. We have to recognize we're all on the same team. Now, we may have different plays we'd like to call, but we're all on the same team. And as I say often, the real challenge for us is really the tax and spend folks on the other side of the aisle that have never met a tax they didn't like, and wasteful spending and bigger government and fewer freedoms. I mean, that's what we're really up against. What we've got to do is we've got to figure out that we're really together. We have different views on how we get there. So when I'm going to use a football analogy since we're in football season.
Kick out of the football season.
Okay, so we're in the huddle, and the quarterback calls the play. We should break the huddle. We should all be on the same, even though we disagree with the play, we should be on the same snap count. We should block our assignments and hope for the best possible outcome. The problem is when we break huddle, sometimes the tight end goes way over here and the fullback doesn't, and somebody's on the wrong snap count. We just need to get a little bit tighter as a unit and influence the leadership to do the things that we think need to be done collectively. But when the play is called, when the commander says this is the mission, then I think we should unite once again and do that. That's when we're strong.
Let me add one more thing to your plate, and probably not fair to even ask you this given the amount of time you have to answer here in the last minute or so, but Speaker Boehner sent a letter to the president on Wednesday asking basically for the president's justification for any foreign intervention in Syria if in fact that happens. Do you think the U.S. should take any steps towards a military strike?
I think we have to be very careful. Whether it's a Democrat president or a Republican president, we have to be very careful that we don't limit the commander-in-chief's options on certain types of military actions. Now, wading into a conflict like this one that could be protracted, like we've just come out of in Iraq and coming out of in Afghanistan, is a whole different subject. But nobody in America wants to see the images on the television screen that we've seen, people subject to chemical attacks. And I think that we have to be very, if we're going to leverage any leadership in that region, that they have to know that we're taking an interest in that kind of stuff. Now, if Assad has gassed his people or whatever he's done with the nerve agents, and the president feels like he needs to send a statement by lobbing a few cruise missiles across the bow to key targets over there, I'm not so concerned about that. I am concerned about how we wade into this conflict, this civil war over there, committing boots on the ground.
Okay.
All right. Congressman Steve Womack.
A lot of work to do when you go back to Congress. Steve Womack, thanks so much for joining us.
My pleasure. Thank you so much.
Very good. When we return, we'll have our political long table with State Representative Fred Love and Ann Clemmer, joined by Roby Brock. I'm David Goins, and you're watching Capitol View on Sunday morning on KARK.